Hello, and thanks once again for joining us for Monday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first on the hazardous weather graphic, we've got a winter storm warning out now for the Juneau and Douglas area here, where it's shaded in the red, and also out toward Elfin Cove. That's for tonight into early Tuesday for 5 to 8 inches of snow expected to fall in those areas. And then when there are snow advisories or winter weather advisories for snow here in the yellow areas in between the two warning zones there, and then back across that Yakutat zone, looking for 3 to 5 inches of snow during the same time period tonight into early Tuesday. And looking at satellite imagery, you can see all the cloudiness here associated with the rain and snow that's pushing eastward and northward here over the southeast coast today, associated with the front. The back edge is still out in this area here, and that'll be pushing eastward here during the night tonight, and then it trails back to the west here. Most of the precipitation south of the coastline today. Got some rain and snow going on in Kodiak, probably clipping the southern Kenai Peninsula area, and then back across the southwest here to the main low center, which is near the Pribilof Islands this afternoon. As you can see it circulating there, almost was right on top of St. Paul earlier. Looks like it shifted a little to the east there, and the colder northwest winds now starting to work into the area there with snow showers and colder temperatures spreading southward to the eastern Aleutians and the western Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, a pretty fair day up over the interior, just clouds here south central Alaska, and looks like areas of sunshine breaking out over the northern from the well, right around Denali there up into the greater Fairbanks area looked really good, and back to the west. And really fair skies all the way up to the Arctic coast there. A little breezy in areas along the coast resulted in some blowing and drifting snow, but nothing too serious as far as visibilities went. Otherwise, again, southeast flow here, the front south of or along the coast and south of St. Lawrence Island. That kept snow falling all day up there at Savunga. And mostly just clouds by the time you get over to eastern Norton Sound there. Some of that drier air shifting westward. And then pretty good clearing here on the lee side of the Aleutian Range and the Alaska Peninsula there, with lots of clouds and some scattered areas of light snow and snow showers extending back across the Aleutians and northward, covering just about all of the central and western Bering Sea. And you can see again this low center not really moving too fast, just barely drifting off to the east there. And then it looks like some more clouds associated with the next system starting to push into the western Aleutian areas. On the chart today, actually back out that way, there is a trough right through here. That's keeping the snow showers going out over the far western Aleutian, southwest Bering, and then a break right through here, even though still cloudy. And then you get into the gusty northwest winds and snow showers here on the western side of this low center, 981 millibars. And then a trough extending back to the north there, keeping the snow going on up to St. Lawrence Island. But the easterly flow here keeping it mostly off to the west there of most of the Seward Peninsula along the southwest coast, again with the breaks over the interior. A little chillier up there over the North Slope and Arctic coast. In fact, some areas here over the eastern interior this morning felt it just close to 30 degrees below zero, but warming up quite nicely during the afternoon with the the late March sunshine. Otherwise, snow advancing northward here, just getting into the Juneau area during the afternoon hours, and then back west across Elfin Cove to where it's pushing up toward Yakutat. And there's a mixture of rain and snow to just plain rain down across Prince of Wales Island over to Annette and Annette and Metlakatla, with Stewart and Hyder seeing a mixture of rain and snow. And that'll continue for tonight with the rain in the south, a mixture in the middle there, and then where the winter weather advisories and warnings are out, that'll be all in the form of snow, anywhere from, again, 5 to 8 inches in the warning areas here over the northern Panhandle, and then 3 to 5 inches possible in the advisory areas. But that cuts off there, not too, probably before you even get to Cape Akataga, just into the clouds there with all the snow off to the east. So just variable clouds here, or mostly cloudy skies, Prince William Sound, south central Alaska, and then mostly clear skies from, say, the northern Susitna Valley, Copper River Basin, all the way up there to the coast and back out to the west. Won't pick up clouds until you probably get to near Nome and out toward the Bering Strait. Areas of snow continue. The chances there for St. Lawrence Island, with numerous snow showers associated with this low center all the way down into Bristol Bay. Those west-southwest winds and this trough keeps snow showers all night long going in those areas, possibly into Kodiak Island and Kachemak Bay there around Iliamna, and then tapering off back to the west. And we still have that trough out there keeping a chance of snow showers in over the far western Aleutians. And for Tuesday, areas of snow, cloudy skies, marginal VFR here for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Becoming quite isolated on the snow showers now for the eastern Aleutians and the Alaska Peninsula. Pretty breezy conditions for Bristol Bay tomorrow. Could see gusts 35 miles an hour out of the west-southwest. So rain and snow there, or just snow here over the inland areas. But some of that could get into the southern Kuskokwim Valley, but anywhere to the north, just mostly cloudy. A few isolated showers here from northern Cook Inlet, say specifically the Talkeetna Mountains, back up toward Denali. And that's about it for any precipitation here over the south central part of the state. Maybe rain and snow showers in the North Gulf Coast. Otherwise dry, mostly clear sunshine here up over the central interior, all the way out to the Arctic coast. And the snow zone here, again, over the northern panhandle, with the snow expected to continue into, could last into the late afternoon hours, say from Juneau up toward Skagway, probably mixing with rain there around Yakutat, and then Sitka on off to the southeast. That'll be in the form of rain to a rain and snow mixed condition again for Stewart and Hyder. And moving ahead to the Wednesday outlook, just scattered rain and snow showers now here across the panhandle. Could see a few breaks in the overcast, resulting in maybe some sunshine in areas, but clouds will be more prevalent than the sun will be, but definitely a lot less precipitation in the area there for Tuesday. Isolated snow showers over the Wrangell Mountains for the southeast interior here, with some possible sunshine in the afternoon, and isolated same pattern for Cook Inlet, south central Alaska. Snow showers along the Alaska Range back to the northwest increase along this trough. Will probably be a narrow band of light snow extending from the Noatak Valley southward across Kotzebue Sound into eastern Norton Sound and the Nulato Hills in those areas. Then back into that scattered nature of the snow showers here over the southwest interior. And the Bering Sea, pretty good high pressure here just south of the Alaska Peninsula, so dry with light winds. And mostly sunny Kodiak, southern Cook Inlet, back across the peninsula. Isolated rain or snow showers along the Alaska Peninsula, but southwest flow carrying some weak disturbances northeastward, so that'll continue to carry some snow showers northeastward into the west coast here, probably throughout into Wednesday night, then a break, and you just see the next system edging its way onto the chart farther out there to the west. And for the low temperatures forecast for tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, again, not quite as cold as what you saw this morning, but still in that 15 to 20 below range in the colder areas here from the eastern interior up toward Arctic Village. Definitely below zero, 7 to 12 below for the Arctic coast, and single numbers here up over the northwest areas to mid-teens down along the southern coast of the Seward Peninsula, Nome, and Whitehorse in those areas. Near 20, St. Lawrence Island, near 30 for the far western Aleutians. Then we've got lower to mid-30s for the Alaska Peninsula, 20s here in the southwest, and lower to mid-20s south central Alaska, and temperatures ranging from lows in the upper 30s in the southern panhandle to mid-20s with the snow expected in the north. Highs for the afternoon tomorrow, getting above freezing all the way up there to Skagway in the upper 30s, and near 40 along the coast of Sitka to lower 40s there for AKwx. 40 degrees forecast high for Cordova. Otherwise in the mid to upper 30s here for south central Alaska. Lower 40s Kodiak Island, Alaska Peninsula to the eastern Aleutians. And back into the upper 20s there over the eastern interior, near freezing around the greater Fairbanks area to Tanana. And mid to upper 30s here over the southwest part of the state. Teens up to the north, and single numbers a little above zero for the Arctic coast. And then for the following morning, Wednesday morning, dropping back down into that 5 to 10 below range to maybe 15 below around Arctic Village. Otherwise, continued upward trend in these low temperatures over the eastern interior. 20s all the way back to the southwest coast here. Still in the mid-teens, St. Lawrence Island, and right around 10, 12 degrees for Kotzebue Sound. In the lower 30s for the Pribilofs, and near freezing for Shemya, a little above for Adak and Atka. And we're looking at lower to mid-30s for the peninsula, upper 20s Bristol Bay, mid to upper 20s here for south central Alaska. And the panhandle, not too bad, those lows anywhere from the upper 20s in the north to mid-30s down south.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
On to flying weather. IFR there from about Wainwright eastward there, central eastern Beaufort Sea coast. And IFR also here just south of St. Lawrence Island, down across Nunivak Island and the southwest coast, possibly as far northeast as Bethel, cutting across northern Bristol Bay into the southern Kuskokwim Valley to up against the southern Alaska range here and into Iliamna Lake with a lot of marginal stuff out over the Aleutians and Bering Sea. Eastward here, as well across the Gulf of Alaska, and pretty widespread IFR there over the northern panhandle, and then southward along the border and south side of the Kenai Peninsula up in toward Passage Canal. And then for Tuesday afternoon, again the IFR North Gulf Coast in the range there. Marginal though over the Gulf of Alaska. IFR eastern part of the panhandle, marginal out along the coast. IFR holding there, lots of marginal VFR, but the IFR holding in place there for the central and eastern coasts on the Arctic, and areas of IFR now kind of breaking up here from St. Lawrence Island in along the southwest coast, and about the same for the Bering Sea and Aleutians. Then for Wednesday morning, you can see some VFR breaks out here from Kodiak over to Falls Pass, Cold Bay on Alaska, all the way out to just about Adak with marginal VFR farther west. Pretty widespread IFR here, Seward Peninsula, Norton Sound, and across the Yukon Delta and the lower Yukon Valley, all the way up here to the Alaska Range. It looks like northern Sitna Valley to the south side of the Alaska Range into the Talkeetnas and along the North Gulf Coast, IFR. And IFR holding over the eastern part of the Panhandle on up Lynn Canal Glacier Bay, as well as, say, Elfin Cove to Yakutat. Wednesday afternoon, we've got still holding with the IFR there over toward the border with marginal VFR elsewhere, and areas IFR, Copper River Basin from the Coast Range here up to the Alaska Range, southward to the Talkeetnas. Marginal VFR pretty widespread there from Bristol Bay and the southwest coast northward to the Brooks Range, with the IFR now sort of isolated here from roughly Nome in toward the eastern Norton Sound area, and VFR on the increase here for the southeast Bering, as well as out there toward Amchitka and Kiska. For Anaktuvik tomorrow, both Anaktuvik and Adigan will be VFR, either approach, and for Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR trending toward IFR. Deterioration conditions, ceilings visibilities coming down slowly there through the afternoon, and rainy though, just kind of occasionally marginal. While windy should be VFR, seeing an increase in the clouds, especially in the afternoon, but should stay above that marginal VFR category. And for Isabel, VFR, same forecast from Intasta. Tanita, VFR, possibly becoming marginal during the later part of the afternoon. And Portage, VFR, going IFR for sure. And then for the Chilcoot and White, IFR the entire day. Looking at the freezing levels, 2,000 feet here over the southern southeast coast, otherwise way down to the south there, anything warmer. At the surface, north of the Pribilofs, in across Cape Neuenam, and then hugging the coastline. Looking at icing tomorrow, we've got some areas of light icing possible here from St. Lawrence Island into the southwest coast with moisture to northeast Bristol Bay. Also possibly here western Prince William Sound, up in across Turnagainaram, Talkeetna Mountains. That's about it for the interior. Panhandle though, areas of light to isolated moderate rime icing or possibly mixed here of about 4,000 feet. Jet stream, southwest flow here, 120 knots, just cutting south of the Queen Charlottes, but close enough, pushing that moisture into the southern panhandle. Upper high pressure over the northern interior keeps it dry and fair there. Upper low, though, not the case for the southwest coast. And at 9,000 feet, we've got pretty good winds right into Bristol Bay from the west-southwest, 30-35 knots, falling back to south-southeast, 20 to 30 here over the west-central interior. And for 3,000 feet, westerly flow, not all that strong out over the Bering Sea, 10 to 20, but then south of this low center, up to 30-35 knots here right into Bristol Bay, and 10 to 20 up over the interior. Turbulence-wise, occasional moderate chops, especially for small aircraft, Aleutian Range, southwest interior areas, and up there along the Kobuk, up here in the northwest, Kobuk-Noatak Valley areas, with light to isolated moderate chop here as far east as possibly the western Yukon Flats, Koyukuk Valley areas, down across the Kuskokwim Valley, over toward the Kuskokwim Mountains could be some moderate chop as well. And isolated moderate chop here for the southeast coast. And when we return, we'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, and joining us today is Eric Stevens from GINA, the Geographic Information Network of Alaska at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Thank you for joining us, Eric.
My pleasure, Dave.
Thank you. And you're joining us here to talk a little bit more about satellites and how satellites work, and especially one neat feature that's working over Alaska right now. What is that?
Well, there's a lot of weather satellites and a lot of instruments on these satellites, and there are new generations going up and new instruments. This includes something called the day-night band, which is not a cover band at the local bar, but it's a new satellite that is very useful, especially here in Alaska, especially in the winter.
In the wintertime, yeah, that makes it a little bit hard to use some of the normal tools that we associate with weather satellite imagery.
Right. You know, one of the classic weather satellite instruments is just visible light. What would the human eye see? If you were riding on a weather satellite yourself and looked down, and it was black and white, you'd see the clouds reflecting the sunlight. And we've got an example from the Pacific Ocean. There's a geostationary satellite, and we can see that the eastern side of the image is in daylight. The western side, it's night over there, so you don't see anything because there's no sunlight over there. And visible imagery, it's very intuitive. You see the clouds just like you see them standing on the ground, but now you're a satellite seeing them from above. But the problem is, what about the night side of the planet? How do you track the storms? How do you know where the rain is, the snow, the weather, if you can't see the clouds? And that's why, just like a television can change from one channel to another, or a radio can change stations, satellites can change the frequency of the electromagnetic spectrum that they're looking at. We can go to infrared instead of visible light. You know, it's heat energy. You can see heat, and we've got another satellite picture from the same time, same satellite, out over the Pacific Ocean. That's the infrared side, and we're seeing temperature there. And even at night, when there's no light, everything still has a temperature.
So we're sensing something with a thermometer instead of perhaps the visible side of that, is what you're saying?
That's right. On this depiction, colder features are lighter shades, warmer features are dark. And so clouds tend to be colder than the ground. Clouds are higher in the atmosphere, it's cooler. And so that very same image on the western or the left-hand side of the globe, now we can see the clouds there, even though it's nighttime, because we're seeing the temperatures. And one nice feature is that tropical storm there, just in the middle of the northern hemisphere there, hurricane or typhoon, depending on...
That's that swirly part that we see in the middle of the image?
There you go. You can even see the eye on it there, especially in the infrared image. So we've got two kinds of imagery there from the same satellite, different instruments, you know, different channels like on a television, visible and infrared. You know, it turns out there's no one magic tool. Each has its strengths, each has its flaws, weaknesses. The visible is nice, it's intuitive, it's easy to understand, but doesn't work at night. Infrared is nice, it works at night, you can see temperatures, but there is a catch. What if your clouds and the nearby bare ground or open water, what if those were about the same temperature?
Oh, that's going to be hard to figure out what's going on.
If you can only see temperature and you have two features that are the same temperature, they will look the same. You won't be able to tell. They're camouflaged. This happens, especially, it can happen around Alaska, especially over the ocean when you have low clouds that are the same temperature as the open water.
That happens quite a bit in Alaska.
We have an example. Now, this is from a different geostationary satellite. It's down over the Atlantic Ocean. Look in the South Atlantic. In infrared, we've highlighted in a yellow circle there. There's some patches of clouds, but it looks like there's a clear area in the middle of that image. That's the infrared look. But let's take a look at the visible channel, and we can see there's a stripe of clouds across the middle of that circle that is only visible in the visible. The trick here is that those are low clouds of about the same temperature as the surrounding ocean. So from an infrared point of view, where you're seeing temperature, the clouds in the water nearby are the same temperature, they look the same. It's only on the visible that you can see what stands out as the actual imagery. Two tools, each have their strengths and weaknesses. Can we combine them? That's where the day-night band comes in. It's a super sensitive visible sensor that can actually see by moonlight. It can even see the aurora. And in Alaska, we have long winter nights. We can use that day-night band. Here's an example from that storm that blew the Kullik drilling platform ashore near Kodiak Island in December back in 2012. This image is right near when that storm happened, and it's in the middle of the night. in December.
But this looks like visible imagery.
Looks like daytime imagery. It's amazing. That sensor can take any little bit of moonlight and just make the most of it. And we can see so much detail. Even in the northern part of the image there, you can see some aurora up there. The northern lights.
That's that band that goes across the Arctic slope?
You got it. That's the northern lights. We're seeing black and white image here, so you don't get the green or the purple colors there. But that is the aurora. There's another example of the day-night band, and this is from January of 2013. It's about 4 in the morning, and this is a snapshot from Weather Service software. And we can even see in the middle of the image, there's the lights of Fairbanks and North Pole over to Eielson Air Force Base. Anchorage and Matsu lights, city lights, are evident as well. Sure, we can see, even though it's 4 in the morning in January, there is no sunlight to be had, that just enough moonlight is available that this sensor can see that. So we're trying to solve that puzzle where visible light is good, but only during the daytime. IR is good at night, but you can't see the difference between clouds and ground sometime. The day-night band is an attempt to do the best of both with one tool. And it's brand new for Alaska here, and we're hoping to use it in the forecast process and help predict storms, weather patterns, to help get good forecasts for people.
Okay, another tool in the weather toolkit for meteorologists in Alaska and researchers worldwide. Thank you so much, Eric, for joining us today. And you can learn more about Dehne and the day-night band by going to the web address that you see on your screen. For Alaska Weather Facts, I'm meteorologist Dave Snider.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis showing continued reduction in the concentrations here, with also the edge pulling back to the northeast and to the north. See just about now on the south coast of Nunivak Island, even less in Bristol Bay, and this trend is expected to continue for the next 4 or 5 days. So moving on to coastal water forecasts here for the southern southeast coast, small craft advisories, west winds 25 knots, seas up to 10 feet. And southwest 25 here farther to the north, and swinging around to the east on the far north coast there at 20 knots. And for Lynn Canal, southeast 20 knots with gusts to 35. Definitely warmer air spreading up into the northern areas tomorrow and tomorrow afternoon. South 20 gusts 35, Stevens Passage and Clarence Strait southwest at 20. And then much lighter winds in store for the day on Wednesday. Southerlies 15 for Lynn Canal. 10 knots for Stevens Passage, and down to the south at about 15. And west winds, 15 knots, pretty light uniform wind pattern here along the coast with seas at 7 feet. And for Prince William Sound for tomorrow, we've got light southwesterlies there with 2-foot seas. North 20 for the eastern North Gulf Coast, west side southwest at 20. Those pick up to 25 knots for the Barren Islands, and then northeast at 10 for Cook Inlet, to southwest at 10 for Kachemak Bay with all those seas 2 feet or less. And for northern Cook Inlet on Wednesday, southwest at 10, pick up to 20 knots south of the Forelands there. And then westerlies, 20 knots with 5-foot seas for Kachemak Bay. 15-knot winds here for the Barren Islands out of the northwest up into the western North Gulf Coast. Farther to the east, those become southwest, but still a light at 15 knots. Continued light winds and slight seas for Prince William Sound. Kodiak Island, small craft advisories with 10-foot seas there on the eastern side, in those eastern zones, Shelikof Strait, southwest of 20, and then southwesterlies at 25 knots extend to Castle Cape, and then they become west, 25 to 30 knots for the Alaska Peninsula, and south 25, 10-foot seas for Bristol Bay. Outlook for Wednesday, lighter winds all across this area, kind of a light variable wind pattern here for the peninsula. At 10 knots with 4 to 6 foot seas, mostly westerly though on the Pacific side, up the east side of Kodiak Island, and 15 knots for Shelikof Strait. Out in the Aleutians, eastern zones, specifically on Alaska Island, looks like it'll be the windiest with west winds 20 to 25 knots, strongest on the north side there, seas up to 13 feet. Otherwise 10 to 15 for Adak and Atka. Real light winds all the way out to the west there, just barely a breeze at all with seas running 5 feet. And then for Wednesday, pick it up to 20 knots from the southwest there for the far western zone, but staying light here. Westerlies at only 10 knots, getting pretty strong high pressure building in just south of the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. So it'll be very light winds here. West at 10 for the day Wednesday. Seas only 3 to 4 feet. And then for the southwest coast tomorrow, Small craft and brisk wind advisories there. Seas up to 11 feet there from the south of Nunivak Island. Same thing for the Pribilofs, northwest 25, St. Matthew Island. Light easterlies there for St. Lawrence Island with 3-foot seas in the ice-free waters. And that holds through Wednesday as well. And southwest 15 to 20 here for the southwest coast. Again, that'll continue to erode the ice conditions back. And 15 to 20 out there for St. Matthew Island. And 15 knots for the Pribilofs with 5-foot seas. And for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, tomorrow, east winds 20 knots, turn southeast to 20 for the central coast and fall back to 15 on the west side. Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, southeast at 10, but Cape Thompson down to the Bering Strait, east at 20. Outlook for Wednesday, they'll swing around to the west here, 10 knots and toward Kotzebue Sound. Real light southeasterlies, 5 to 10 on the western coast, and then 15 increased to 25 knots, so brisk wind advisories back in the forecast over toward Demarcation Point. And for tonight again, there'll be a little breezy on the eastern Arctic coast tonight as well, especially as compared to the west side, but fair conditions over the interior. Most of this moisture in this system sliding eastward here, just barely grazing the North Gulf Coast at all. Better chance down toward Kodiak Island of rain and snow. And then the winter storm warning out for the Juneau area, Elfin Cove. 5 to 8 inches of snow expected before it tapers off Tuesday, sometime Tuesday. And rain and snow farther to the south. Snow showers, Bristol Bay. Little snow up to St. Lawrence Island. And then scattered snow showers for the Aleutians. That holds through Tuesday, but continued losing the snow showers just about over on Wednesday for the Aleutians. Strong high pressure to the south. A couple of disturbances keep a chance of snow showers on the west coast. Scattered snow showers for the Panhandle.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.